Good morning, guys. It's about 8:30 in the morning and I just walked out to the garden. There's a few changes that happened in the garden that I'm going to show you, but I want to stop at these roses because they're starting to bloom some more and all of the flowers are just looking gorgeous. So this was actually the one I showed you last time, and it's already fell off and done its thing, and now we have all the new ones opening, and the baby pink is beautiful. We're gonna actually talk and walk. So I think in my last vlog I was telling you guys, I'm just looking down to see if I see any corn sprouting. No, Winter, don't come in here. On my last vlog I was telling you guys about the beds that were breaking, asking you guys what your opinions were, and over the next 2 days I didn't film any, but I'll insert pictures. I did end up changing the 2 beds that were the most broken. Well, actually I changed 3 beds, but 2 of the beds were really broken. So this was a bed that had pole beans. It looked exactly like this one. So they both have pole beans on the inside to go up this trellis, and then it has bush beans on the outside, except for this has barrels of Ireland that reseeded itself. And we planted this bush beans about 2 weeks or even a month after we planted the bush beans over here. But you can see we did end up making it wider. So these beds are now 4 by 6 because these are the beds that were the most broken. And I'm so happy that with the change, and you can tell where the beds stopped from. So it was right here and then right here, and then it ended all the way down here. And like I said, I didn't film any of this because I didn't know about spacing or what I was going to be doing. So we refilled all of this with soil, not that much, just enough to level, just enough to be leveled with, here's my mouth, just enough to be leveled with the soil that was already in here. These boards are 6 inches high. I think when you measure it, it's probably about 5.5 inches, but they're 2 by 6s by 8s, and so that makes the bed 16 feet long. But then the previous beds were 4 inches high, and so there is a pretty big gap, but I didn't fill the soil to the 6 inches high. I filled it to exactly the spot where the bush beans were. And then the same thing for this bed right here. I did the same thing. You can see the brown spot where there's not any soil, or where there's not any straw, is where the bed was. So we still have the amaranth that I planted. That was a cucumber that sprouted from last year. I have an okra right there in that corner, and these 2 beds next to it, that's the herb bed that I transferred all the herbs to. And this is a cucumber bed, but on the inside, both of them have cucumbers. So there's 6 cucumbers on each side. But as I was out here working, I realized that something pulled out one of my cucumbers. So I do have my pack of cucumber that I'm going to put 2 seeds in there, and hope that it grows back pretty fast. So that's one of the things I have to do. I need to bring the water out here with me. It's supposed to be a really hot day, and it's not going to rain for like the next 8 days. So I want to go ahead and get some of my beds watered. But everything so far, I think everything so far is looking really good. I'm going to put these packets of seeds down because we are going to plant them. But then let me show you the last thing that I did. So the last thing I did was I changed this bed. This bed was a 3 by 6 bed. It was identical to the 3 by 6 bed that's over there that I have raspberries in. But the reason why I changed this bed is not only was one of the boards broken off, but it also had a lot of weeds in it. And I'm trying to see, what is that? Okay, it had a lot of weeds in it. And so what I did was just covered it with brown paper, broke around the boards, weeded all around the bed, and then filled the rest of the bed with soil. So this one did take much more soil than the other ones because I was not leaving any soil bare. because I just want to cover the whole soil. So this bed is basically a brand new bed, and that's why there's comfrey. So I took comfrey off from one of my plants, and I took comfrey off of one of my plants, and I decided to use the comfrey as a as like a mulch. And so I mulched this whole bed. I mulched the whole bed with comfrey, and I also put comfrey some other places too. Oh, I think I put it in my worm bin, because my thought was to make comfrey tea, but comfrey grows back so fast. So this is the comfrey right here, and I showed it previously, and it was really big. It actually took over. You can kind of see this whole dry spot right there is where the comfrey was, and I used all of that to put down into the new bed that I made to add some organic matter to there, because what I filled it with was topsoil, mushroom compost, and garden soil, and peat moss. And peat moss doesn't really have any nutrients in it, but and then I wasn't really too sure about the garden soil. It was just on sale at Walmart, and so I just got a few bags of those and filled it, and it's completely filled. That was the bed that I was supposed to plant corn in, but I've been going back and forth with whether or not I do want to plant corn in there or not. It would have been grinding corn, because I do have my sweet corn up front. Then the last thing I did was weed this bed. This bed had lots of weeds growing, and it's that pile right there. I just kicked it all into a pile, but all of this weeds was growing in this garlic bed. This bed is the majority elephant garlic, but I did last year have lots of basils here, and tomatoes and marigolds, and so all of this right here is basils regrowing. We have a bunch of basil back here that's regrowing. We have basil up at the front that's regrowing, but I did replant tomatoes. I didn't really see a lot of seedling tomatoes, so all of this, majority of this, is my dwarf tomatoes, with the exception of the basils that are growing through here. And then I even have a marigold growing somewhere in here as well. But then I transplanted also some cherry tomatoes in here if my dwarf tomatoes didn't make it. But I had to weed this whole bed, and then I covered it with straw. Same thing, I covered, because I want to keep the soil protected and moist since it's starting to get really hot. So I put the straw there, I put straw there, and straw here. I don't know if I mentioned this or not, but one of the other things that I had to really do in the garden was to get my the strawberries planted. I had about 60 strawberries left that I needed planted, and I did end up weeding this asparagus bed right here and planting the rest of the strawberries in here, and then covering it with straw. So right now I have the water hose over here with me, and I'm going to go ahead and get everything watered in, get the seeds that I need to replanted. Like, I know up here there's some pumpkins. I told you about that cucumber, but there's also some pumpkins that have already started to germinate, but then there are some other pumpkin seeds that have not germinated yet. And I think it's because, where are my seed packets? Over there. I think it's because something came in and actually ate my pumpkin seeds. Well, I guess while I'm at this, I got the wrong cucumber seed out. That says bait alpha. I'm gonna have to, and I got the Ponset 76. Okay, so I can't, I was gonna say, since I'm at this cucumber bed, I might as well just put the seeds in there, but that's the wrong cucumber variety. So we're gonna have to go back in and get the right cucumber variety. But since we're outside, we need to go ahead and plant all of the, that's disgusting. There is a caterpillar eating my tree. I have no hands. Let me get some hands free and get that caterpillar off. Actually, there's two. It just makes me think I have to go in and check my trees inside the orchard, because last year we had an invasion of caterpillars, those tent caterpillars, and they were eating my trees in the orchard area as well, and they've already have lots of leaves on them, so I want to go over there and check over there. Okay, so we are in the, what is this called, the cross bed, and the pumpkins that didn't germinate are the Cinderella pumpkin. I have one baby bear that didn't germinate. I have one Long Island cheese that didn't germinate. One of the white pumpkins didn't germinate. And yeah, there's one of these other two varieties, but I don't know how to pronounce them. But we'll get those replanted as well. I saw that what's it called? Something had took out, I'm guessing a squirrel, had took out the seeds that I planted, and I pushed them back in the ground, but I didn't even think to consider that they probably opened the seed, took the pumpkin seed out, ate it, and then left the shell. And so that's probably why they didn't germinate. So I'm going to replant them, and hopefully nothing eats the pumpkin seeds this time. My garden kitty Shadow is gonna make her way into this video. Okay, I'm gonna plant 2 seeds in the holes, which I think is what I did before. Excuse me, Shadow. I still have my one 3x15 bed that's supposed to have my last 30 tomatoes in it, and I put that away, and I need 2 more seeds. And it's actually, well, last time I checked last week, it still had ants in it, and so that's why I haven't planted those last 30 tomatoes. But it worked out perfectly because those were the tomatoes that were the smallest, and so they've still just been growing in pots, and they're still only about like this big. I just checked them this morning. So they still have lots of time to grow, and I don't feel in a rush. This year I did try to start my tomatoes in intervals, so I didn't start them all at one time, which I've struggled in the past by starting them all at one time and then having to get them out like super fast. Actually, I was just about to plant this bluish tomato pumpkin, and I see that one seed looks like it's on the verge of germinating, but I saw a caterpillar on it, so I'm just gonna go ahead and plant 2 more seeds just in case, because that was taking a long time to germinate. Have you guys started your whole garden planted yet? I feel like the time is going by so fast, and it's gonna be May, and I want to have my whole garden planted definitely by May. I think we only have less than 2 weeks left to get this all planted, and really, like I said, I just have that 3x15 bed on the opposite side of the cattle panels, and then my 4x8 bed that I'm not sure if I want to plant corn. And then of course I need to check on that tomato bed. I guess really the biggest thing would be the tomato bed, because I have to weed it, and I have to then, I want to put either cardboard or something down to keep the weeds from growing back, and then plant the tomatoes. This bed is actually a total example of why I transferred my beds to wider beds. So all along here, even though when you look, the landscape fabric looks like it's all the way up against the bed, you have all of these weeds that grow between the bed and the landscape fabric, and we're starting to get these really big weeds that are super spiky, and it's hard to get out. And when I got out one of the, it was just like a couple, 1 or 2 out of the other bed, the roots were like this thick, and it went underneath the bed, it went underneath the landscape fabric, and when I pulled it out, it pulled out probably a chunk this big of soil with it, and of course I had to replace that with soil, and so it was really, really crazy. And so definitely why I want to replace all of these beds. So this will probably be my next bed in like emergency, just because of how bad the weeds are around it. I don't think it's not broken, but the weeds around it is just really, really bad. Even in the place where there was landscape fabric and we just closed it, it's so surprising that weeds are even growing on that side, because usually the weeds have just been growing on the sides where the beds were separated, not really in, that would be a pathway, that was a pathway. And so it's surprising that that's actually growing there. I'm in this bed because I transplanted all of my zucchinis and squashes out here, but we still have some open holes. I did put some zinnias transplants in here. I actually moved the zinnia transplants from that herb bed into here, but then there's still some empty spots. So I'm just going to be taking my zucchinis and summer squashes and just filling them with in these holes. I actually realized that all the seeds I got were actually, I thought I got, what does it say on it? Oh, it does say zucchini. I have a different seed packet. One just says zucchini and one says summer squash. So this one is all zucchini, but I'm going to use it anyway. And just plant 2 seeds in each one of these missing holes. I'm not going to put a tag on them or anything like that. I'm just going to plant them in there. And so this is the last bed I was talking about, and previous years I planted sweet potatoes in this bed, I think for the last 2 years, and I've debated on whether or not I wanted to plant sweet potatoes here again, but I think I changed my mind, and instead I think I'm going to plant flowers here. So the flowers I picked out were zinnias, some basil, which isn't really a flower, but I do use it in cut flowers when I make arrangements, zinnias, basils, and marigolds. And I'm going to plant them all from seed, but in order to do that, I need to get the weeds out of this bed first, which is basically the same thing I did for that other bed when I planted seeds there. I had to weed the bed first, which takes a long, it takes longer to weed the beds than it does to plant them. Which some of them aren't so bad, because I did lay cardboard down on all of these beds, and then I planted, or then I put horse manure on top. But some of the places where the cardboard has broke down, weeds have begun to grow through. So it's not all over the bed, which is nice, but there's definitely some places. It's about 3 hours from when I first came outside. It's like 2 hours and 45 minutes. I got this bed weeded. I ate some breakfast, which is really like brunch because it's 11:20 right now. Drank some coffee, and now I'm back outside. I already watered this bed in after I weeded it. And I got the 3 varieties I'm going to plant. So I'm going to do this yellow giant marigold. I'm going to do this Myers, what is this? Mrs. Burns lemon citrus basil. This is the basil that a lot of cut flower gardeners recommend to use in their cut flower arrangements. I've used all types of basils, but I have this pack, so I'm actually just going to sprinkle this onto the bed. I'm not even going to like plant. There's only a few seeds in here, and so I'm just going to sprinkle it around the bed, the portion. And then the last thing I have is this giant double flowering mix, and it says it gets to about 30 inches high, which is 2.5 feet, which is really good because I'm trying to grow these things for the purpose of cut flowers. So I just sprinkled that, and it got only probably about 1.5 feet into the bed. And then the rest I'm going to plant with the giant yellow marigold until I run out of seeds, and then the rest with this zinnias. This will be I have one full bed, log bed of zinnias, one half bed of zinnia in the log area, and then I think I did plant some seeds, some zinnia seeds as well, but I want lots of zinnias this coming year or season. I don't know. I think I just want to sprinkle, yeah, this. I haven't had a lot of luck with my, what are these called? With my marigolds this year. I've tried to grow this from seed probably 2 times. I'm gonna put that right there as a marker. So hopefully by sprinkling that in, I can, and the whole packet, maybe I can get some better germination. If I did see any, once I sprinkled in, if I did see any seeds sticking up, I did cover them. Ugh. So I look like I have like probably 2/3 of the bed left, and the zinnia seeds are a little bigger, so I think I am gonna just put some in every few spaces, but I am gonna try and use the whole pack because it's not that many anyway. Okay, finished planting this whole bed, hallelujah. So we have the lemon basil at the front, then we have next the yellow giant marigolds, we have the giant double flowered zinnias, we have coral zinnia, and then California giants at the end. This coral zinnia packet, they did not look like zinnia seeds. It was very, very small, like a sprinkle, kind of like smaller than even basil. I couldn't remember what seed it reminded me of, but I put it there anyway because that was within the packet. We'll see what it is when it sprouts. So I'm pretty sure that was mislabeled because the zinnia seed is not a sprinkle. We've gotten everything. Right now it's what, 78. I think the high is 80. Oh my goodness, the high is 88 degrees today. That's crazy. Oh my goodness, 88, 90, 89, 88. Wow, so we're getting into summer weather. It's definitely really, really hot here. So I'm gonna part ways with you guys. Planted everything that I needed to plant. I've already watered this morning, so I'm not gonna water again, especially because it's 80 degrees outside. But I got everything I planned to. I reseeded everything that needed to be reseeded. I weeded this bed. I got the wet bed planted. I showed you guys the new beds I made. The only thing I'm still not sure about is this 4x8 bed behind me here. Thank you guys for hanging out with me today, and every day that you come back, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.